all I can say is not automatic, but the ANC made a considered view that the members would be members of both.
I actually support you. I share that same sentiment.
Okay, no, thank you so much. All right. So I would want to leave it at that for now. Nandipa, please make a follow-up on that. Check if it is not an omission on the part of the administration, because he is under the impression that he is also a member of this committee, the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. All right. Do we have the quorum, Nandipa?
Yes, we do, Chair.
We do have the quorum. Acting Secretary, good evening.
Good evening, chairs, and good evening, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Defense.
How are you?
Well, thank you, under the circumstances.
Thank you very much. I don't see...
Whatever that might mean.
Whatever that might mean. I don't see the Chief of Staff on the platform, but I can see the CJ Ops. There is. Chief of Staff, good evening.
Good evening, Chairperson, and good evening to all honorable members. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let me start with you, Secretary. Do you want to do introductions? And then, yes, please, let me start with you. I'll see how far you go.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, I would like to indicate that I know the Minister's apology has been provided. The Chief of Defense is also not available due to some also pressing matters on the issues that are around us about the deployments. Chair, I have on the line the Chief of Staff, General Ramantwana, the Chief of Joint Operations, General Sangweni. I haven't seen acting CFO, but I spoke to him that he should be here so that if there are any matters that needs to be explained in detail on the finances, then he assists on this matter. But Chair, before I give General Sangweni an opportunity to make a presentation, I should just indicate that there might be matters arising maybe from the questions that might require a closed session. So in that instance, we will indicate that we would request a closed session, obviously following processes that are available to the PCD and the Joint Standing Committee. We did indicate at the PCD yesterday that there might be sensitive issues that cannot be discussed, or because they might put our soldiers in a vulnerable position. So I just want to front load that, Chair, before I give the Chief of Joint Operations the opportunity to present. Thank you. Through you, Chair, then the Chair, the Chief of Joint Operations may continue to present. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's fine. No, thank you very much. I've heard you. I've listened to your request. Let me just confirm one thing, that indeed the Chief of the South African Defence Force was going to be at this meeting, but due to an urgent meeting that he had to attend, he told me that he was boarding an aircraft, and therefore I must convey his profuse apologies. But that when there's an agreement that the meeting be physical, he will make an effort to be at that meeting. Not that he was not going to come to this virtual one, he was going to come to this virtual one. And but if the opportunity presents itself for another meeting soon after this one to deal with matters in detail that may not be transacted at this level on this platform, he would also make himself available. So that's the apology from the Chief of the South African Defence Force, as per the message or the call he gave me about 2 hours ago. And Mare, you want to say something? I can see you.
Yes, thank you so much. I obviously respect everything and I concur with everything that has been said. I know that, again, we might have a situation tonight where there are things that we want to ask and it might be of a sensitive nature. Is a closed session meeting only on our request? Because if the SecDef and or the CJ Ops or the chief or the minister, whoever, know that it's about a subject of sensitive nature, should they not request that we hold a closed session meeting like we've had in the past, sometimes in Simonstown or that, because we might, I can see that we must have a closed session meeting relatively near in the future, because there are matters not only coming out of the budget of yesterday that is of a concern, that will have an effect on the Defence Force's defence capability, but also in terms of this presentation, there might be certain things. So, and also how, in terms of, you've mentioned feedback on the two cases that we have had losses in the DRC the last 2-3 weeks. One is a helicopter with injuries, and the other one is injuries and deaths. So we need to get a feedback on that, and I can see that in such a discussion there can be sensitive issues, and my plea or suggestion is that we have to be proactive and foresee these things, and then arrange between us to rather have things like this in a closed session. That was just a comment from my side before we start. Thank you, Jeff. You are muted.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, is there any other comment? Let's see how far the presentation goes. I know that in the past they limited to the requirements that are there in the legislation. One, that Parliament must be informed of the reasons for employment, place where the Defence Force is being employed, a number of people involved, period for which the Defence Force is expected to be employed, and the expenditure incurred or expected to be incurred. They normally just report on these 5 areas, but then we are saying that in the circumstances we need more information, especially information that may not be transacted in an open meeting on this platform. We may require that we close the meeting, and so that we can then deliberate on that additional information. I think that is accepted. We can accept that as the way forward. So meaning that even in the manner we ask questions, we must take that into account, that would have another meeting. The meeting, Mr. Mare, the SecDef is making that request. I think I was going to request that we hold that meeting. It means that there's a meeting of the mind on that one. So there's no question that meeting will have to be convened. There's no question about it. So we'll be looking for a date for this meeting. With that, Chief of Staff, you may want to say 1 or 2 words before we invite CJ Ops to take us through.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for the emphasis that the Chairperson has made, and we want to thank all the honorable members for that understanding. And I wouldn't want to waste the time, Chairperson. CJ Ops himself is here, and he will be taking us through. And upon completion, then we will be able to assist the CJ Ops in terms of the responses that might be required by the honorable members. And with your permission, Chairperson, CJ Ops is ready. He's on the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Hermanson. Let me now invite the Chief Joint Operations, General Sangwe.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening to the Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee, and greetings to the acting SecDef and other members of the SNDF that are in attendance. Chair, I want to commend you today. You didn't forget my surname. So, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I want to start by saying to the honorable members, the agenda item, how it is crafted, and when it started, I think last year, it speaks to, as you call it, presidential letter. We normally use presidential authority or employment papers. So, as you know, the presentation that I normally present is just 4 to 5 slides, which only speaks to the employment papers or the authority by the president. Just giving you a bit of the, as you had requested, a bit of narrative or detail of how the president got to that decision. So it is just, I think, 5 slides or 6 slides that I will share. I'm not sure who's going to run the presentation for me. I tried to, it prevented me to control from this side. Okay. If Nandipha can assist.
Can you repeat that, Nandipha?
I will slide it, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Thank you, Nandipha. Next slide. Well, this is the aim to present to the committee the presidential authority for the employment of the SANDF to Summit DRC. Summit DRC being a name of the SADC, Southern Development Community Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We call the mission Summit DRC, it's abbreviation. Next. Well, on this slide, we are confirming that the president has authorized the employment of the SNDF for service in fulfillment of an international obligation of the Republic of South Africa. And in terms of legislation, this is in accordance with the provisions of Section 201 to subsection C of the Constitution of the RSA. And we just want to appraise the committee that we always have code names for our operations. The code name of this deployment to Summit DRC is Operation Tiba. TIBA is to prevent or block, if I give explanation of TIBA. Now, furthermore, I'm taking into confidence the committee to provide a bit of narrative how we got to this operation. The SADC Extraordinary Troika Summit and SADC Troika Plus, the Force Intervention Brigade, and troop contributing countries meeting that was held on the 8th of May in Windhoek, Namibia, amongst others, noted with great concern the unstable and deteriorating security situation prevailing in the Eastern DRC, and reiterated its strong condemnation of the upsurge of conflicts and activities of armed groups, especially the resurgence of the M23 armed group operating in the eastern region of the DRC. Chair, in this meeting, the DRC government submitted a strong request for the SADC region to intervene, support and assist the DRC in her fight against these various illegal armed groups in the eastern part of DRC, as well as the DRC's quest to bring the situation back to normalcy and ultimately restore the authority of the state. Subsequently, a collective decision was taken by the heads of states and government of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security affairs to establish a SADC mission, which is called SAMI DRC, to support and assist the government of the DRC in the fight against these illegal armed groups, as well as to save lives, bring the state to normalcy, and ultimately restore the authority of the state. We all were well aware that the DRC is a member state of SADC. The Republic of South Africa is also a member state of SADC. Within the prescripts of SADC, we have what is called a Mutual Defense Pact, which the heads of state that applied their mind after the request, a strong request by the DRC, and then they took the decision to establish a mission. A mission is not necessarily purely military mission. You'll find missions that will also migrate to having civilian components. But for this particular operation TIBA, it is the military part of the mission. The mission broadly with its intent to support the DRC in their requirement. Now I want to confirm, as per the letter by the President issued out to the Speaker of the National Assembly, as well as to the Chairperson of the Non-Standing Committee of the
Council of Provinces.
Yes, of the Council of Provinces, Chair. Thank you, Chair. A complement of 2,900 members of the SNDF will be deployed to SAMI DRC for service in fulfillment of an international obligation to the RSA as its contribution to the SADC effort to support and assist the DRC in her fight against illegal armed groups and to bring safety, security, and stability in the region. The employment of the RSA capabilities now under Operation TIBA is for a period of 12 months from 15 December 2023 to 15 December 2024. Here we are just amplifying, as also contained in the presidential letter, that the estimated expenditure to be incurred is 2.371 billion rands, where there's a bit of breakdown for goods and services and compensation of employees with a broad line item of the expenditure. What we wish to bring to the attention of the committee and is that the cost for this deployment currently is unfunded in the financial year 2023-24 financial allocation and is considered unforeseen and unavoidable. So there are processes when we are compelled by situation or security requirements to deploy unfunded, being an unforeseen and unavoidable, which the Acting Secretary of Defense indicated that the CFO will then look into that. I'm speaking on 23 to 24, 24 to 25. We are still awaiting. We're not sure if we'll get an allocation for the particular operation. Chair, that's where I end my report. It is just a report on the presidential letters, Chair. I submit.
Okay, thank you very much. And colleagues, do you want to just check if I can see hands? All right. I can see hands. Mr. Murray, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, General, for the presentation. I know that this is basically what the legislative obligation is. So I'm not just, you've gone a bit further than normally, where you have on slide 4, where you've given a background of the decision. So initially, I didn't want to ask a question on that page, but given that you have talked about that, I just needed to. My first question was that you explained that this is a SADC decision, but I do not see or have heard about any other SADC nations other than possibly Malawi and Tanzania that will support this mission. And I haven't seen some of the immediate neighbors who are also SADC members. I haven't seen the name of Angola, Zambia, Burundi, not even Uganda. I've not seen the maybe comments or requests from the East African community or the African Union. And I've asked myself, so why is this a SADC mission? Basically, 60% of the 5,000 members that was indicated will come from South Africa. We are the most southern member of SADC, and the DRC is the most northern member of SADC. I just got the impression that the others has got more of a national interest than us. And I would just like to get your feedback on that. Also, given that the UN had about roughly 12,000 to 13,000 peacekeepers in the DRC, and as I understand the decision of this SADC Troika and then the SADC heads of nations, that there will only be about 5,000 members of this new operation. So how does that impact, and why do we not see those others? Then secondly, it's about the page, your slide 6, about the costs. I know it is unfunded, and it's a big concern of ours. We know that yesterday we had the budget, and the money that is provided for over the medium term for Mozambique and for the DRC, over the medium term with 2.6 billion, and we know that for this mission alone for a 12 months period, we need about 2.4 billion. So there's no correlation between there, and that means that is also unfunded. We have heard that both the minister and the president has said to media that our soldiers will be fully supported, will have all the equipment, and will be fully resourced. This does not look like that. And I just need to get your feedback on what kind of steps are you taking to mitigate on this. I obviously do not agree with you that this was unavoidable. Whenever there's a choice, it can be avoided. In this case, I do believe it was avoidable, but I just need your feedback on that one, especially given that we know that we have struggled over the last year or so with funding, and your reports and everybody's reports have indicated that we are struggling financially and with resources. I've also read in the media that, and it was reported yesterday, that the chartered aircraft for logistical support was because we couldn't do it from ourselves. So I suppose our C-130 is also not operational. And then especially the fact that we have lost an Oryx earlier this month, and we know that means that the only one that is currently mission deployable is also due for a major service back in South Africa. So how does all of this impact on the fact that that we need to fully resource our soldiers? And they must know that we are fully behind them, and we will not put them unnecessarily in a dangerous situation. I wanted to ask you about our capabilities to defend us against the rebels and their clearly advanced ammunitions, but I know that that's going to be sensitive, and that is probably something that we want to retain for the closed session meeting. Thank you very much.
Yes, you are right. The capabilities, we'll discuss them in a closed meeting. Lest we the rebels. So we want to be careful about the force design, that it not be transacted in an open meeting. It's for us as the committee to be satisfied that our soldiers are supported with all the necessary capabilities. All right, so we want to leave it at that, but we'll take it up at in a closed session. Right, let me just look on the platform. iPhone 3 and then Mr. Raider. So Motsomai, I think you said it's iPhone 3.
Yes, it's me. I would just want to confirm or to ask, there are more than 600 Amapanyasa who have been trained at Tshwane. I just want to know, those people are the military, are part of the military, or they were just training there? And how did they enter to the base where they are not soldiers? Another thing I was just want to know about from General. There are people who are beneficiaries of apartheid who came out from South Africa. We see them on the social media singing Nkosi Singelela Africa in IDF. Are those people, as we know that South Africa, we don't have a death sentence, and they went there to Israel and joined Israel army and killing people that side? Can General explain to us what is going to happen with those people? Maybe they're the military combatant who move from South Africa to join outside country IDF. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Motsomai. Honorable Raider.
Wow, Chair, I think, yeah, both of those questions don't really belong in this discussion, I don't think. But yeah, let me continue with my point. Chair, thanks for the opportunity. And I want to raise a big concern. I think Mr. Murray has raised many technical concerns about the mission that we're discussing. All of them valid. I think there are budget issues that worry all of us. There are capacity issues that worry all of us, and therefore I do believe that a further discussion in the appropriate forum is urgent. So I would like to add my voice to the call for that. But Chair, my question is more of a process point of view. And
recording in progress.
Wow. My question is more of a process question, and it relates to the fact that the mandate of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence is derived from the Legacy Constitution, and I think we all know that is Section 228 of the old Constitution that remains in place. That states in Section 4 that the President needs to advise Parliament, okay, by calling this committee, and then it goes on to say if Parliament's not sitting, the President must ask us to meet expeditiously, but not later than 14 days after the commencement of the employment. Now, we've had debates and arguments about this in the past as well, Chairperson, where we have had tardy advice coming from the office of the President relating to the deployment of troops and the employment of troops. This has been the worst case in point to date, as far as I'm aware, because we received this notice on our group on the 14th of February, and I don't have record of having received it before then. So the letter's dated December, mid-December. There were media articles about this deployment in the beginning of January. I think the 7th of January is the first one that I read. But Chair, once again, what we find is that we are now sitting in a situation where we're dealing with something that has already happened. It's a fait accompli in totality. We're way out of time to give our inputs and comments on this deployment. And in fact, we weren't aware of the deployment until such time, 2 days after we got the letter, and long before we were able to sit in discussion, 2 soldiers are dead. So, Chair, I really believe it's time that we need to actually summon the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who is required to give us these advices expeditiously. He needs to come and answer to this committee and tell us why he's not empowering us to do the work that we are mandated to do in terms of the Constitution. Chair, and I really feel that it's important now that there needs to be some sort of a pushback from this committee to the President to say, sir, with respect, you need to do your job so that we can do ours. Because at this stage, those 2 troops that died on his say-so and without the endorsement of this committee. And I think that's a massive problem that we need to seriously take up as a committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, the letter is dated the 20th of December. For the employment for the period 15th of December 2023 to 15th of December 2024. According to the note I received, is that Parliament received the letter on the 22nd of December, but got ATC'd on the 10th of February. So I just want to say that the delay is not a part of the department, neither is on the part of the presidency. If you consider that it was signed on the 21st, the letter that was addressed to Parliament was signed on the 21st and was received by Parliament on the 22nd, but only ATC on the 13th of February. So I just wanted to say that if there is any blame, the blame is not on the department, it's also not on the presidency. That said, I'm sure we can then deal with the responses. Colleague.
Sorry, Chair, Chairperson, I need to make a point on that, if I may.
Yes, you wait a minute. Let's get the responses before you come back, if you have a follow-up to make. All right, let's do that. responses. Who do I ask to respond? SecDef?
Thank
I will
you.
come, Chair. Chair.
Yes, CJ Ops.
Thank you, Chair.
CJ Ops, the SecDef was wanting to say something. I'm not too sure. SecDef, let me just hear what you wanted to say before I call the Lieutenant General.
Thank you, Chair. I'll leave the operational questions to CJ Ops and the Chief of Staff. Just want to indicate one matter that was raised by the Honorable iPhone 3, I think, is Honorable Mutsamani or
Yes,
sorry, yes.
Yeah.
And that is we and in the Defense Force, as part of also the developmental agenda, do provide non-military training to other government departments when requested. We have, for example, had NARASEC, which is a program under the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform. We have provided facilities to the police. We, in the same way, we can provide facilities to Amapanyaza or whatever you call them, but it's only the non-military module that we deal with that deals with discipline and so on. And it doesn't mean that we are training them in the military. So I just wanted to indicate that we do participate in the general development where we are requested. The same way we do with assisting with the building of bridges. And when it comes to those who are participating in militaries in other countries, in South Africa, we do have the Military Assistance Act. Anyone who wants to do that will have to apply and request for an application that will go through the NCACC. So if they go there on their own, that cannot be placed on government. We do have control measures to make sure that our people don't go and participate in other countries as mercenaries or whatever. Then I can leave the operational questions that are more direct to joint operations. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, yes. Just to reinforce your point, Acting SecDef, with respect to citizens serving in the Israeli Defense Force, I want to read the provisions that govern participation or rendering of foreign military assistance by South African citizens to any foreign military. And that section is Section 3 of Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act 98, then we say at number 15 of 1998. That section prohibits offering or rendering foreign military assistance unless it has been authorized by the Minister of Defense on the recommendation of the National Conventional Arms Control in terms of Section 4 and Section 5 of the Act. Then Section 6 of the Act, Section 6, subsection 1 of the Act, provides that the committee must maintain a register of these authorizations and approvals. Section 6, subsection 2 provides that the committee must each quarter submit reports to the National Executive, Parliament, and parliamentary committees on defense with regards to the register of authorizations and approvals. I want to add that in the last 5 years, we have not been finished with the register of any authorization or approval, if there's any. So I'm not aware of anything of that sort. And however, the question remains. We'll pose that question to the Minister of Defense at the right time. If there is a register that suggests that certain of our citizens were authorized or approved to render military assistance to any foreign military as is governed by the Act that I've just quoted. So we'd want to leave that one at that so that we don't have to go back to it. We can then move to the other matters. Chief Jones, I think the acting SecDef was leaving the rest to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Maybe I'll start in reverse. Honorable Ryder was just a comment, and which does not require a response from us. Chair and members of the committee, I wish to remind the committee that the issue of a bit of a narrative that Omar Rae has raised on slide number 4 is not something new. If we can go to our records, we've been here for about 2.5 years together. There are records of Operation Vikela in Mozambique, the truck blockages on our highways, and the need for that bit of narrative was advised by the honorable members of the committee, as when we commenced with this, it was said, you have the letter from the president, it indicates what you are presenting, but you required a bit of how did it come about. So this is slide number 4 speaks to that, as we had agreed and guided by you that we must include it. On Mare, the issue of other member states, I narrowed myself to Operation TIB as a code name for our deployment in Summit DRC. Summit DRC is inclusive of other member states of SADC, pointedly the RSA, the United Republic of Tanzania, as well as the Republic of Malawi, that currently are in the mission area. As this was a decision of a collective heads of states of SADC, the requirement to contribute was to all member states, and there were those who were able to respond in time as was requested. We are of the opinion that maybe going forward, the other member states will also join. It is a similar, typical as we do with the United Nations. So yes, we as the RSA or SNDF cannot speak about their not being there. Our understanding is that at any time, and some of them do contribute on other matters. We're all together with Operation Vikela in Mozambique, Samim. We've experienced where it started gradually with 1 or 2 member states and then go up as the mission was progressing. So it is still in that spirit and in that approach that for now you'll find the 3 that first responded. Your other question was what are the steps taken to address the impact of shortcomings in the SANDF. I believe us being requested by your good self to present was to bring this up to you, and as you, my understanding is that you are part of the DOD at the oversight level, and also part of your responsibilities is to assist and take to Parliament issues that the SANDF is struggling with. So the steps that we have taken is this presentation today, and I believe going forward, all members of the committee, we will assist where there are challenges. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reiter, I wanted to make a follow-up.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, in the interim, I have posted the relevant section of the Constitution in the chat group, and I'm going to read it because I know the chat group doesn't get recorded on the video process. But what it says there in the second part of section 4, so it's 2284, it says the President shall summon the Joint Standing Committee referred to in subsection 3 to meet expeditiously but not later than 14 days after the commencement of such employment. So it doesn't say that Andrew Hendricks, who puts out the ATC, must summon the Joint Standing Committee. It doesn't say anybody else must summon the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. It says the President has got the power. In fact, it is an obligation to summon this committee, Chair. So I'm afraid that the responsibility still vests squarely on the shoulders of the President. It is his responsibility. He's supposed to inform us. He's supposed to involve us. He didn't do so, and we're now sitting with 2 dead people. Thank you.
Well, I'm not quite certain if I agree with your reading. Why must the President? I know that's from the interim constitution, but the 96 constitution is worded differently.
Chairperson, the 96 Constitution did not override. It specifically left this paragraph of the Constitution.
No. I'm not going to allow you to speak because I'm on the platform. I'm not going to allow you to speak because I'm on the platform. I'm saying the 96 Constitution provides differently, but I accept that some of those provisions were saved. But in our reading, we must not read them in such a way that the 2 provisions or the 2 sets of provisions conflict with each other. So the best way I would prefer is for Parliament, is for the President to inform Parliament through the channels that we are accustomed to. It's upon us to meet as soon as we receive the letter and then deal with the issues in the manner that we have dealt with. I don't think we should really be summoned on that one. But let's leave it at that for now. Let's leave it at that for now. Let's not debate this. We're now at the end of our term. We're just left with 5 months before we conclude our term. And that's how we've been dealing with the issues.
Chairperson, I'm sorry, I can't leave it there.
All right. Right, Mr. Murray, you want to say something?
Yes. Can I just say that I share the concerns of my colleague, Mr. Honorable Ryder. You will recall that we have received over the last couple of days the legal opinion on whether that interim constitution, where it has not been drawn into the final constitution, whether that is still valid. And in terms of that, it seems like it is still valid and enforceable. So we need to get clarity on that, because if the Constitution puts an obligation or an implied obligation on the President, then we need to know how we must deal with that, and whether there are any obligation on us. So while I agree with you that we should not discuss it in breadth, and in length, but we need to get confirmation because it's expected from us to do oversight. Because we also need then, Chairperson, to write to Parliament, to need to know, when did you receive this letter? Why? What are the reasons that you have only ATC that in February, which is 2 months, nearly 2 months after the deployment and after the signature by the president? It's not, if the president is not guilty, then it's not fair to criticize him, but then we must criticize Parliament and know why they haven't done their work. Because we have read it in the newspapers and in the media, and that's also not fair on us to read it, and only in 2 months afterwards, then we see a letter. That's not fair and it's not reasonable. No one should expect it, and it should be acceptable. I just wanted to say with regards to that, I think there's an obligation on us going forward, and even if that must be part of our legacy, to have something in our legacy report so that the next Parliament can then make sure that whatever they do, however they interacted, because the intention is not to have a confrontation with the president or the leadership of the Defence Force. We just need to be put in a position that we can do our work properly and to have proper oversight and step on nobody's toes. That is my suggestion and input with regards to that. And then just in terms of the general's response, a general...
sorry, Thabo wants to say something on the same point. Can you allow Thabo to say something? Honorable Thabo, I will come back to you, Mr.
Will you just allow me then to do a follow-up to the general?
Yes. I allowed you because you wanted first to deal with this matter that Mr. Rader raised. I will come back to you with the follow-ups. Thabo, you wanted to say something? Honorable.
I was muted, Chair. Yes, Chair, I wanted to also make a contribution on the matter. And I think, Chair, it builds on the discussion that we once had with regard to the timeline or the time frame around when should the committee be informed, because this is a constitutional matter, or there's a provision in the Act as to what the president should do with regard to this deployment. And we find ourselves back having to discuss the same matter again with regard to the deployment in question. Maybe even before we make conclusion and put a blame on whether the president or the office of the speaker, we need to find out first where the delays happened and what are the reasons for those delays. And in the meantime, probably concurrently or in the same breath, seek legal advice how to the committee should then deal with whatever outcome or reasons that are provided, because I think honorable members are correct, Chair. We are all in agreement that it can be that the letter finds it to be expressed in this committee after 2 months or so, when the deployment has already long taken place. So I think we, if members agree, that is the route that we can take, and maybe in our next meeting then we get to deliberate with those facts presented.
No, it's fine. Are you done, Thabo?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you, Chair.
No, we will inquire with the administration of Parliament, because ordinarily, as soon as they receive the letter, they must ATC it. There's no question about it. I think in the administration, someone slept at the wheel. So I agree with the committee that the delay between Parliament receiving the letter and the letter getting referred to us is unacceptable. That I accept. But what I don't accept is to say we must be summoned by the president. I think the president was correct to inform us of the deployment promptly. I think he has done it. But as to whether we must be summoned, I don't think we should really encourage that, because we're a committee that don't sleep at the wheel. We don't have to be summoned. We act as soon as we receive the letter of deployment. It's people who get summoned are people who don't do their job, and or there's a suspicion that they may not convene expeditiously to deal with the matters at hand. So hence I say, in reading the provisions of the interim constitution and the provision of the national constitution, the 1996 constitution, we must do that in such a way that we harmonize those provisions, and so that we don't create unnecessary tension as a result of tension that arises from the two provisions. That is my point. But if you want the new parliament to be summoned, we'll leave it to the new parliament. But at least on this side, we've been acting as the committee promptly. We have not wasted time. We would convene as soon as we receive the letters of deployment. So we don't need to be summoned by the president or by anyone. All right, with that.
Chair, sorry, can I just have a last closing comment?
A closing comment, I will allow it.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, both Mr. Murray and Mr. Mutley suggested a legal opinion, and I think that is appropriate, because you're interpreting the constitutions, and as a chairperson, that's within your right. But I do believe as a committee, we need a legal opinion. So my request, therefore, is to have the parliamentary legal advisors attend our next meeting for this discussion, and that will also inform our legacy report going forward, so that in future these things are handled correctly. Please, Chair, if you can accede to that request.
What is the question that you want the legal opinion on?
The parliamentary legal advisors should advise us, Chair, on this committee in next week, and tell us if the president should be summoning our committee or should not, because it's quite plain in my reading of the constitution.
Well, I don't need to be summoned. Let's leave it at that.
Chair, the constitution says you will be.
No, we do. We're not a committee that sleep at the wheel. Let's leave it at that.
Then I can't be part of a committee that's acting in contradiction with the constitution.
Okay.
No, sir, right out of.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Okay, it's fine. Let's have this discussion. I'm not stopping it.
Chair, you'll then excuse me. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, it's a live discussion. I appreciate it.
Why early good night, Mr. Ryder? Why early good night?
No, Mr. Shelembe, you are out of order. Out of order. All right, Mr. Murray, you wanted to do a follow-up?
Yes, to the general. Yeah. Thank you very much. The general has tried to escape very, very quickly, and I can see he's not very well schooled in politics. So unfortunately, he opened it up in terms of page 4. So and he has given us some motivation and some background to decisions. He knows that we sit with an enormous support problem, logistically, equipment, budget. He know that in the past, of that 1 billion rand that we spent each year in terms of Operation Mistral, we received back between 450 million and 750 million from the UN. That was back appropriated to us in the medium-term budget every single year. So now it is not only that difference that we must make up, but it's basically 2 billion rand additional that was not budgeted for. And whether they still talk about that or discuss it, we know that the earliest possible time that they will be able to give us more money is with a budget in October, November this year. So there is at least half of the financial year ahead of us where no money has been provided for this operation. And we know that it is going to impact on the Air Force, land borders, and it's going to impact in Mozambique and our domestic operations. So we can't just say to me that we are the part of the DOD and we are part of the oversight, so it's now up to us. No, they are part of the decision because clearly they were in a position to advise the president when a decision like this has been made, and also when the president informed South Africa that there will be resources. So how does he want me to advise, from a political point of view, if he, as the leader, the chief of joint operations, cannot at least advise us and give us the information that we require? So, General, that is not acceptable, and you will have to give us more information or request that you give it in another forum, but you cannot just pass the buck to us. Your role is specifically as part of leadership, and you have to provide us with that information. Otherwise, our man, who must we trust in this whole spectrum? Must we tell that the president lied willfully, or because we know the money is not there, and we know that we have lost an helicopter, and we know that we have lost people. So it's not just that, like, I'm sucking this from a thumb. It was also said yesterday in our meeting that we have got the money and that we are in dire straits. SecDef will be able to confirm that to you. So you can't just pass the buck to us. We are here to do oversight, and you are here to report to us in terms of our questions and concerns. So please, sir, I'll appreciate that very much.
Wouldn't you want the SecDef stroke CFO to deal with that question? Because it's the chief joint ops presented on operations, but if you want details on the budget and how they would manage the budget in view of the fact that the allocation will only happen in October, the best people to deal with that, I think, is the acting CFO. He is on the platform as well as the
Chairperson, with the greatest of respect.
No, can I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah, but don't let the CFO answer a question that I haven't posed and that you have changed. I just want him to answer my question, please. Do not refer it to someone else who can answer it in terms of my information.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Please be patient, Mr. Mare. You are known to be a patient person. In a sense, I will invite the SecDef and the CFO to deal with that aspect. But later, when we deal with the answers, please prepare SecDef and the CEO. Ms. Bartlett?
No, Chair, it's fine. You already called, but I was just upset with the way this meeting is going. Mr. Mare Honorable Mare can't interject the chairperson every time when he speaks. I wanted to pose a question to Mr. Ryder, but unfortunately he's gone, Chair. So thanks. Then he just have respect for our chairperson. Thanks, Chair.
But the chairperson is able to chair the meeting. Doesn't need your assistance.
Wait. This is a new thing. I don't understand this. The DA behaving like this? You. All right.
Chair.
No.
We are members. We are members.
No, Chair. Call us members, Chair. Chair,
No.
Please, Chair.
The DA behaving like this.
The ANC is misbehaving.
All right.
Spotlight was misbehaving.
No, Chairperson, I ask myself because you and the DA, you are going to do a coalition. But the way you people are behaving is a problem.
No. Motoma, you're out of order.
All right.
No, I can see you just want to fight here, but you are one team. You're married to each other, then that life is moving well. So don't come and pretend here.
You made a mess in Parliament yesterday.
You must allow us EFF to raise a genuine question.
What you did, remember what you did in Parliament yesterday, the mess that you were doing there.
Sorry, are you done? Are you both done? So to allow us to continue the meeting. Okay, you are done now. Thabo, you wanted. Then before Thabo, there is Miss Nkosi. Let me take Miss Nkosi. I will come back to Honorable Thabo.
No, Chairperson, thank you very much. Greetings to your good self, all members present in the meeting, and my colleagues. Chair, actually, I wanted to make an appeal to honorable members here. You know, when we are in the meeting, we are listening everybody that is speaking, and we are respecting everybody that is speaking. I don't think that it's a good picture for the members to interject whilst you are talking. I think we need to give one a respect that it deserves, because even if you are speaking something that you don't like it, but just be patient and wait for that particular person to finish. Then after, you can then raise whatever that you want to raise. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Kosi and Thabo Muhle.
No, thank you very much, Chair. It's quite unfortunate, but Chair, maybe also you went a bit overboard by referring to them as PA. They are members of this committee. Maybe you should have prefixed by saying the honorable members of PA in the committee. Indeed, such behavior should be condemned. It should not be promoted. I think we have agreed, Honorable Marie, in several platforms has attested that we approach matters in this committee in a non-partisan way. Therefore, I don't think at this stage, when we are concluding our work for the term, we should be pointing fingers at each other. I think we must all calm down and focus on the subject at hand. And Chair, maybe to just to ensure, I agree with you that the president cannot summon us, but the provision says if the committee does not sit, it depends whether the committee has received a letter or it has not received it. We cannot be summoned to sit whilst we have not received the letter. And we have sat on the letter for over 14 days without convening. That is when that provision will then empower maybe the president through the speaker to summon or instruct the committee to sit and process that particular letter. But it can be just a question of misinterpretation of the law or of the act or the provision of the law in this case. But you will know better, Chair. It's something that we should not fight about. The question here is the investigation or the inquiry that must be done, because we are not at fault at all. you have not received the letter and decided to sit on top of that letter and not convene the meeting. So those are the facts that we must establish. We are not at fault as this committee, and there's no reason for us to fight about it or differ around it. Let's establish facts and find out what really happened. Therefore, that provision where we will be someone who will not apply because we only received the letter late and we are dealing with the letter after we have received within the reasonable time that is prescribed, but only for us to find out that this letter is dated 2 months prior to it arriving to this committee. Therefore, it is not our fault. We should not fight. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that members feel that you are in defense without them explaining their own understanding, which they must also allow other members to also give their own explanation or perspective to how they understand or interpret that those particular clause or provision of the law or of the act. So I think we are not far from each other, Chair. Let's come back and process matters on the agenda. It was what happened just a few minutes ago. It was very much unfortunate, very regrettable. I hope members will come to realize their action that will not assist this committee, apologize, and then we'll move forward with the agenda item. As I submit, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Colleagues, I think we have concluded the discussion on the presentation, and we got sidetracked by this aspect that doesn't relate to the presentation itself, right? But
no, Chair, I've got follow-up questions to the Chair General.
Sorry, Mr. Maria. But however, there were questions that Mr. Maria asked that needed a response before we move on this item. Can I ask you, Secretary, to deal with those? Is the money?
Thank you, Chair. For now, I would answer broadly. Then we can come back when we have analyzed the budget. But what I can indicate now is that the Chief of Joint Operations is the Chief of Joint Operations. The provisioning part and the enablement part should come from the sector in terms of resources. We are not passing it back to the committee. We normally, at the beginning of every financial year, after we have received the final letter of allocation, we have a structure which is a very effective structure that is called the DPPAC, the Departmental Planning and Budget Committee. We look at all the services, their requirements, and what can be allocated.
And Dime, please switch off your mic. And Dime, please switch off your mic. Apologies.
And thank you, Chair. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. So where the Chief of Joint Operations will give us the requirements. We will look at the requirements, look at where we can prioritize, if there is a place to prioritize, and support his requirement. And therefore, he cannot be expected to answer very much on the budgeting side, except that I will need this much. We will be able to indicate what will be the implications in the event that we don't receive the money that will cover all his requirements as Chief of Joint Operations. At 2, we have discussions at staff level. I indicated at the PCD yesterday. When I say staff level, at the level of chief directors, at the level of the DGs, and only when we cannot find each other, then we escalate to the political principals, which will be the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Finance. If everything fails, then we go to cabinet. But we are positive that the Department of the Treasury will come through for us. So now, for now, it's a bit premature to ask what are you going to do when this doesn't happen, because it has been indicated that the Treasury will assist the department in the DRC. Some of the matters, the implications when not enough money, we don't get sufficient funds, that we can then discuss in a closed session. Thank you, Chair.
There we've got it. Thank you very much, Acting Secretary, Chief of Staff, and the Chief Joint Operations for your presentation. We will come to you with the proposed date for our next meeting. You are free to exit the platform at any time when you wish so. We can then move to the next item.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief of Staff. Yes, thank you, John, CJ Ops. All right, colleagues, we can move to the next item. It's Willem, Dr. van Rensburg. I think it's you who must take us through.
Sorry, Chair. I think it should be the program.
The program. Let's look at the program for today.
Chairperson.
Right, the program. It's we're now on this thing.
My apologies.
Can we come back to you?
Yes.
I'll come back to Mr. Murray.
No, it is on the program.
Right. The second item now is this one, the draft 2024 first term program, Joint Standing Committee on Defense, with 9 weeks. So, but the committee will only have 4 weeks, as it were. You said 4 weeks or 5 weeks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 weeks. All right. So we are meeting today on the day 22 February 2024. Next week we're meeting to receive the briefing by the military ombuds on its third mid-year performance and expenditure, and the committee engagement during internal SNDF deployments, and then the consideration of the outstanding minutes. And then on the 7th is the briefing by the DFSC on its midterm year performance and expenditure, and then update by the Defense Secretariat on the status of the development of the future strategic direction and minutes. And then we received the briefing on the NCACC, and then that is on the 14th of March. On the 21st of March is a holiday, so we're not meeting. Then on 28th, we deal with the legacy reports, and we adopt all the minutes, and then we wish each other farewell. I think this will be the last day in the term. However, Having decided that we must schedule a closed meeting, I'll try to find space in between these items. Sorry, these days. In other words, between today and the 28th of March. But that date would be much sooner than later. Colleagues, do I get your comment? Mr. Murray, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that we haven't got much space in this term. It obviously depends on when we will break finally Parliament, and that we don't know yet. Normally in the past it was by the end of March, but it might be in sometime early April. We don't know yet. However, if I work back from our time, the last meeting is important, in my opinion. The meeting with the NCACC is important. Now, the other two in between is not that it is not important, but I think on the 7th, that update by the Defense Secretariat on the future strategic direction, as well as what we have identified tonight, plus in terms of the impact of the budget, will be critical important, not only just for our legacy report, but for the Defence Force and the future of the Defence Force. So my plea would be that if we need to compromise, we must compromise either the 29th or part of the 7th of March. Alternatively, we have to then look at a Friday morning and not on a Thursday evening. But I think that session meeting is very, very important for this country. I think we are confronted by matters that is not easy, and I think we need to have a closed session to discuss it with not only with each other, but with the leadership as well. So my request would be that we see whether you can compromise on those two, alternatively to find a Friday morning that we need to meet. Thank you, Chair. Otherwise, it is a really straightforward, and we have to have the NCACC meeting in terms of legislation, and then we have got little or no space left for anything else. So in that regard, I would support it with that amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murray. Thabo, is your hand up? Honorable Thabo?
I wanted to raise it, but it was Liga's hand. Thank you, Chair. I want to support Honorable Murray's move to adopt with proviso that you look at the dates, and I think probably I agree that you can look at one Friday, whether the 1st of March, if we are not compromising the 29th. You will engage with the department and check what will be feasible. Whether we'll do that physical meeting in Cape Town or Pretoria and look at how the logistics will then be accommodated.
Are you done, Thabo?
Yes, I'm done. I support second Honorable Murray on the adoption of the program with those.
Thank you. If we look, we'll consider a Friday, because if it is a Thursday, then we're limited in terms of time. The Thursday slot is only available from 6 p.m. But if it is Friday, in fact, it's our standing slot. If it is Friday, we can meet in the morning and take the whole day if it needs be. But if we do that, if we take the Friday, so we must forfeit the Thursday meeting, because it's time we fly between, to the destination. So we'll then forfeit the Thursday evening. And if really we want those items to be dealt with, we can either deal with them on Friday together with the, but I don't think so. We must, I think Mr. Mara is right to say we must compromise. So it means that we can get Velem and Nandeba. If, for example, we choose the 8th of March, then it means that we're not going to have the briefing by the DFS as well as the update by the Defense Secretariat. We can only deal with the meeting for which the closed meeting is convened, and then take the minutes and close the meeting. If it is the first, the items on the 29th would also be affected in the same way. So we'll dispose them off in favor of the meeting for which the closed meeting would be convened, but then still deal with the minutes and still consider and adopt the minutes. I think if I come to your colleague. Yes, sir.
No, I think your proposal is well in order. But I was just saying, if, for an example, you secure the 8th, then the briefing on GFC, because on the 29th, we are only receiving briefing from Ombud. It's only one item. We can see how you juggle the items around. If then we will, for an example, we get the 1st of March, then the military ombud item can be taken to either the 7th or the 14th, because on the 14th there's also one item there. So I mean, you can play around with this item so that we do not necessarily dismiss any item on the agenda because of the closed session. Thank you, Chair.
No, that is supported. We'll try to accommodate them elsewhere. All right, with that, the agenda is moved and seconded, subject to us finding the slot for the closed meeting, and then displacing the items on the preceding Thursday to another day. All right, so we can then move to the next item. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Good evening, Chair, and good evening, members. Just want to check if my screen is visible on your side.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, members, these documents, there's 2 presentations to follow. I will try and keep it as brief as possible, but these are just administrative procedures that we have to follow. And the first one relates to the annual report of the activities of this committee for the previous year, January to December 2023. I will run through some of the key aspects of the documents. The documents were distributed to members, so hopefully you had a chance to look at them. There's 2 documents. The first one will be the annual report of the committee, and that is for your consideration and adoption tonight. The second one is just an introduction of the legacy report of this committee for the 6th Parliament. That does not require adoption tonight, but we would like to introduce it to ensure that there's an opportunity for members to give input, and then also at the end of the actual term of this Parliament, when we adopt the legacy report, that it goes quite quickly and we don't have to run through the whole presentation again and make large changes towards the end. So first things first is the annual report of activities for this committee. This is in terms of the joint rules of Parliament, Rule 31.2b, that states that a committee must report to both houses on its activities at least once.
Is muted or you back.
Can members hear me?
Yes, please mute, colleague. You may go ahead.
Thank you. This is the name list of members that were present during the year or part of this committee during the year. Firstly, the name list from the National Assembly, and secondly, the name list from the National Council of Provinces. The annual report then looks at the mandate of the committee, which is derived, as discussed, from 1993's interim constitution. And then just a brief, sort of as an introduction, saying that in 2023, the committee's activities remained aligned with its constitutional mandate. It looked, for example, at issues around morale through its engagement with the Defence Force Service Commission and the Military Ombudsman. The committee also looked at issues around the appropriate timing of funding for deployments. Other aspects that were looked at as budgetary oversight. It was done in conjunction with the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans, and looking at issues around the declining status of prime mission equipment and contracts and spares procurement. Then the committee also considered all presidential letters of employment. It looked at issues around SANDF readiness through engagements with arms manufacturers and Arms Corps. The committee also looked at succession planning and rejuvenation, including in the reserve force, and it held engagements with the Chief of Human Resources on the issue of succession planning, and also received feedback on the reserve force in Durban that was held in 2023. Finally, it also received the mandatory quarterly engagements with the NCACC. In terms of legislation, no bills were considered because it's a joint committee. There's no legislation considered by this committee. In terms of oversight trips, there was an oversight visit to Rheinmetall Denel Munitions and Damon Shipyard. And there was also a visit to the Milcor facility, both in these visits in Cape Town. The committee does not look at the budget vote in as much detail as the Portfolio Committee of Defence and Military Veterans. In terms of the committee's strategic plan, this was not done in this year because it was already done in 2020 during the strategic planning session. And there was no conferences, workshops, or seminars held in the year. But members will recall that we conducted a successful study tour to Germany. And section 10 of this report just includes a list of all the committee meetings for the year and the agenda items to be discussed, or that were discussed during these meetings. So it's just an exhaustive, complete list of all meetings held. And when the actual minutes were adopted, as members will note, the last minutes from last year has not yet been adopted. Cancelled meetings, there was one cancelled meeting on 30 November. It was an administrative meeting, and the committee agreed to postpone it to the first meeting of 2024, which is this meeting, and the two reports we're discussing now as relevance. There's no public hearings during the year, and also no Section 32 reports that gets directed to this committee. Consideration of annual reports. There was a consideration of the Defence Force Service Commission annual report, as well as the Military Ombudsman, as well as the annual report from the NCACC to the United Nations that was considered. That was the last one, was on 30 March 2023. Information on entities reporting to the department. The relevant department here being the Department of Defence, those that you would have Arms Corps, and they had an APP that was considered by the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans. The Defence Force Service Commission, they did not table a strategic plan in the year, but there was engagement. This committee had an engagement with them on the 12th of October last year. And then there was a Military Ombudsman who submitted the annual performance plan in March 2023, and there were two engagements with them in May and September of last year. There were no unapproved applications during 2023. The committee also did not receive any sponsorships during 2023. And then papers referred to the committee for consideration. These would be your presidential letters of employment. And as members may note, this is just a list of all the actual letters considerations by this committee. Lastly, papers referred to the Committee for Information. There was no papers referred to the Committee for Information. And Section 20 is just a list of the staff members and positions as at 4 December 2023. Chair, members, I don't know if there's any input from your side, but I'll hand back to you for now on this one. It's for your consideration, this draft annual report. It is a standard format that we use. This is the format that all committees use, and so we stuck to the format as is and tried to best populate it with the committee's activities. But I'll hand back to you for any input from members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, here is the draft report. In my view, straightforward and highlighting all the activities that we participated in. I don't know if there is somewhere where it exaggerates or leaves out anything of importance that you may want to raise. Co-Chair, you may want to say something. I'm sorry, I've just noticed your name now. I know you were at the meeting right from the beginning. Nothing
to add, except that the report is details. It shows what happened in this term and the kind of challenges that we faced, and actually more achievements. And I think in all these years, this committee actually performed well in terms of the number of meetings compared to the last 2 or 3 parliaments. So I'm good.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair. It's Mr. Marais' hand up, or is the legacy end? Mr. Marais?
No, I think it was also very thorough. I want to support you, and I think it's a good report, and our staff has again done us proud with that report, and I will gladly support that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marais moves. Any seconder?
Mothapo, Chair, I fully second and commend Secretariat for a well-written report.
Thank you very much. We concur with you, Ms. Mothapo. Thank you. All right, so the report is adopted, and we can now move to the next report. Mr. Shelembe has not worked today, so his salary will be docked.
Chair, you are fishing me, Chair.
Over to you, Mr. Doctor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair,
it seems like there's a KZN thing going on here.
Continue, Doc.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members, this the second one is, like I said, it's not for adoption tonight. It's just for introduction, and it's the draft legacy report of this committee. It's a bit more lengthy, but I'll try to just highlight the key issues, and then it has been distributed to members for further deliberation on it. But yeah, let me just run through it. Again, it's a standard format that Parliament provides for us to populate with the activities of this committee. And we try to do that as best to reflect on the activities of the committee over a long period. Firstly, there's key highlights, this grey box over the next 2 pages. Key highlights is just a reflection on the committee's activities for the just a sort of an introduction. And I think it was mentioned by the co-chair, Honorable Jabeleng, just now, just stating that the committee showed significant improvement and managed to meet more regularly and therefore adhere to its constitutional mandate by focusing on the SANDF and its capabilities. There was some impact by COVID-19 on the strategic planning of this committee as well as the PC, as members will recall. And but following the adoption of the actual strategic plan in 2021, the committee did address most of the focus areas identified in the strategic plan. However, given the nature of the committee, it was subjected to both the NA and NCOP programs, and this continues to limit opportunity for meetings and especially opportunity for oversight visits. And this has been a legacy problem from previous parliaments as well. The committee's focus during the sixth parliament. What are the areas that this committee actually focused on? Some highlights include the regular consideration of the letters of deployment, focusing on SANDF deployments, prime mission equipment, specifically through engagements with Arms Corps and Denel. Force design and force structure in the SANDF became quite a prominent feature. Engagements with the Ombud, Service Commission, and the NCACC. Looking at key areas for future work, members will see this emerge throughout the document. These are just the highlights, but potential key areas for further work. It's more detailed in section 13, but some highlights would be stemming from the work of this committee over the past 5 years. Looking forward, issues that might need continued oversight in the 7th Parliament are issues such as the future of the SANDF, looking at the parliamentary debate in this issue, which was suggested by this committee, but it hasn't taken place, and then careful oversight of the Minister of Defence future strategic direction, which will be finalized by the end of this financial year. Improving SANDF capabilities, specifically around sea hours and flying hours, continued oversight over the SANDF deployments, as we saw tonight, the importance of that, accountability to SANDF members, specifically in terms of engagements with the Service Commission and the Military Ombud, and the broader defence industry, continued engagement with this. I must admit, this is something that was only really started by this committee during the 6th Parliament, proper engagement with the defence industry, and it's been a positive development. Key challenges and recommendations. Some key challenges. Firstly, an administrative challenge to note is the vacancy of a defence researcher at Parliament at this stage. Secondly, Joint Standing Committee of Defence meetings. The 7th Parliament should consider a time slot for weekly meetings to ensure that regular meetings can take place. And we just note here that this committee met on Thursday evenings, which actually enabled it to have more regular meetings than in previous parliaments. Potentially the use of subcommittees to enhance oversight. And the point here is that the Joint Standing Committee of Defence in the 7th Parliament should consider making use of subcommittees for oversight visits, given the limited opportunity afforded to this committee in parliamentary programs of the NA and the NCOP to conduct oversight visits. Members will well know that due to these two programs and their difficulty in finding overlapping periods for oversight, there's a really very limited opportunity, and perhaps the use of subcommittees where there's fewer members involved would allow for that. And then cooperation with the Portfolio Committee. This Parliament actually saw very strong and good cooperation between the two defence committees at Parliament, and it should be encouraged in the 7th Parliament for this to continue. There was really the programs of these two committees, for example, very complementary, and I think it helped that there was some sharing of membership, but it was really a complementary existence of these two committees. And if you view the work of these two committees together, it's quite a comprehensive oversight tool of defence in the country. So those members, Chair, that's just a summary synopsis of what is in the report. I'll run through the rest as quick as possible. The first section deals with the mandate of the committee from the 1993 Constitution. And then there's the departments and entities falling within the committee's portfolio, which is the Department of Defence, Military Veterans, Arms Corps, and the Castle Control Board, and then the NCACC, the Defence Force Service Commission, the Ombud, and the Reserve Force Council. The functions of this committee and the work of this method of work of this committee is contained in the next two sections, and it just speaks to how the committee conducts its work through parliamentary meetings and through oversight visits, for example. The purpose of this report is to reflect then on the 6th Parliament's activities, and there's key statistics held. These will be updated by the last meeting. You will note in terms of the meetings held. By the last meeting, we'll update the totals for 2024, but this table just reflects the activities of the committee in terms of oversight visits, meetings, study tours, and so forth. Engagements with stakeholders. There was a number of engagements with departmental stakeholders, including the Department of Public Enterprises and the Department of Transport, Public Works and Infrastructure, and then the defense industry, as we've noticed. Briefings for public hearings. There's a number of engagements with stakeholders that should be highlighted for the 6th Parliament. Firstly, there was the engagements with aerospace, maritime and defense industries, AMD. There was also the visit to the engagements with academics to brief the committee on matters related to the SANDF's force structure and force design. And just a note there in bold that this is a key matter that should require follow-up in the 7th Parliament. There was further engagements with AMD and the National Defence Industry Council. There was an oversight visit to South Africa's land borders and engagements with TENEL. Again, no legislation was brought before the committee because it's a joint committee. Oversight trips undertaken. There was a visit to one military hospital, SANDF deployments on the borders as part of Operation, SANDF deployments in KZN and Gauteng as part of Operation Prosper in 2021 following the unrest. There was a visit to the African Aerospace and Defence Expo, and then visits to Rheinmetall, Denel Munitions, and Damon Shipyards in the Western Cape. In terms of challenges emerging, firstly, on an administrative level, there was some oversight application processing by Parliament, where this often took a long time, and it's quite a cumbersome process to get approval from both houses for these visits, given that it's a joint committee. Opportunities for oversight was also limited, as we noted, because of the difficulty in finding a slot between the programs of the two houses. Issues for follow-up. Perhaps the committee should consider increased oversight of SANDF areas of deployment in the next Parliament. Study tours undertaken. The trip to Germany. In terms of challenges, the oversight application processing by Parliament. Again, this was quite a lengthy process. Members will recall that we waited very long for approvals and had to rerun approvals. So perhaps just noting that to the administration of Parliament, that this was a concern. And then international cooperation, it's a bit out of our hands, but to note it here is the cancellation of visits to international destinations due to the non-availability of counterparts in other countries. And issues for follow-up. The administration of Parliament should perhaps consider a more rapid response to the submitted requests. It was very difficult, especially for this committee, because all applications had to run to both houses of Parliament, and that is a lengthy and cumbersome process, and perhaps something for the administration of Parliament to consider. And lastly, the issue of for this committee in the next Parliament to prioritize the oversight of DoD human resources management strategy. That was a key outflow of the study tour to Germany, and it warrants further follow-up. I think this committee made very concrete recommendations in this regard, and it warrants follow-up in the next Parliament. International agreements referred to the committee. It was just one of defense cooperation with the Republic of Indonesia, which the committee took note of. Statutory appointments. There is no statutory appointments that requires parliamentary involvement. Interventions. There was no formal interventions referred to the committee. However, the committee did consider a request for investigation that was submitted in March 2021 by one of its members, Honorable Holomisa. This was concluded, as members will recall, on 2 September 2021, when it was decided to close the investigation, but that the task team could be re-established if circumstances warrant. No petitions were received. Obligations referred to the committee. The committee, in terms of the joint rules of Parliament, should conduct a strategic review of the SANDF's midlife of a particular Parliament and submit recommendations to both houses. Members will recall that this was completed. A midlife report was submitted, and it was ATC'd on in 2023 and 31 March. We highlight the midterm observations straight out of the report here as well, as adopted by members. Perhaps interesting that we will have to follow up from an administrative point of view. This was an undertaking by the committee in the midterm report that the committee will request from the DoD the figures of SANDF members retained in the SANDF and report on its legacy report how this and other reserve force recruitment efforts impact on force rejuvenation. So we will request, Chair, with your permission, just following up on this undertaking that was made by the committee in its midterm report, perhaps to get this done before the end of the year. Next is a summary of outstanding issues relating to departments, entities that the committee has been grappling with. So what are the issues outstanding? What should the 7th Parliament look at? And who are the responsible parties for that? First of all, a parliamentary defence debate. This was recommended in the midterm review, but it has not taken place. So perhaps a reminder to the presiding officers to consider this strongly in the next Parliament. The SANDF's future strategic direction, SANDF flying hours and sea hours, the status of prime mission equipment, border safeguarding, the states of the SANDF reserves. On the next page, looking at DoD and National Treasury around the cost of SANDF deployments and the funding of such deployments. The future of the Defence Force Service Commission, as well as the implementation of its recommendations, implementation of recommendations of the military ombud as well, and lastly, the electronic permit management system of the NCACC. All these matters were matters that came about through the work of this committee and is advised to the 7th Parliament to take these matters forward. The committee by the Speaker or the Chairperson of the NCOP. These would be the presidential letters of deployment, and we list on the next few pages an exhaustive list of the presidential letters that were submitted. Challenges emerging, given parliamentary, perhaps this is a relevant point in terms of tonight's and advising going forward for the next Parliament. Challenges emerging, given the parliamentary programs, research periods, and limited scope for joint Standing Committee of Defence meetings, there was often a delay between Parliament receiving the letter of deployment and the JSCD considering them. This might not be a massive delay, but there was sometimes a few days between this. So it is put for consideration for members for the next Parliament to note that the 7th Parliament should consider developing a standard model for the consideration of letters within a specific time frame from such letters being received. And I think perhaps developing this with the procedural offices of Parliament and the presiding officers would prevent a recurrence of this problem. Again, this has been a legacy problem. This has been a long-standing problem at Parliament. It's not unique to this Parliament. And perhaps it's time to, through this recommendation, to finally find a long-term solution to this matter. In terms of recommendations, this was already covered in the first section, but the recommendations around filling the vacancy of a defence researcher, finding a time slot that works for the new Parliament, and noting what worked in this Parliament, making use of subcommittees for oversight visits, strong cooperation between the two defence committees, and then looking at the overarching oversight focus area recommendations. And that would be focusing on the constitutional mandate of this committee and sticking to that constitutional mandate. Flowing from this committee study tour recommendations to the 7th Parliament should prioritize the human resources management issue. There's also continued engagement with the local defence industry would be positive, and oversight of SANDF deployments would be positive. And then lastly, there's a list of members of the committee, as well as parliamentary staff at the end. Chair, I'll hand back to you. Just as a departing shot, members are welcome to make input now, but when we presented the same report at the Portfolio Committee, there was a suggestion, if I recall, from Honorable Mutle, to give members also a chance for written input. So if I can suggest, for example, members are welcome to send us written input up to, for example, the 10th of March, and then we can incorporate that, and in the last meeting just highlight those additions to. I will leave it with you, and also allow members, please, to make input as they wish. Thank you, Chair.
Colleagues, if you accept, thank you, Willem. If you accept Willem's proposal, then we don't need to discuss it now. We can then only invite written comments, then set the date as the 10th of March for those written comments. I don't know, but it's open for discussion.
Chair, I agree that we take note of that. It's wonderful work for so long, but it's work in progress.
Work in progress, correct. All right, any opposition to this?
I support Mr. Murray.
Thank you very much, Shelembe. Okay, so we'll leave it at that and then take it up after you had submitted you sent in your written submissions, if there are any. Let me remind you, for the portfolio committee, we set the date as the 29th of February. It's drawing close. Please don't forget to make your written comments. That when he presents these reports next time, you would simply just zoom in on the changes as a result of the comments the colleagues have made or would have made. Okay, let's leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for this comprehensive report. It's well captured, and it essentially presents fairly on all our issues or matters this committee dealt with. Co-Chair, are you fine with this if we move forward on this note? His phone was, his line was terrible. I think he probably is facing that problem where he is. All right, we can then move to... Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chairperson, also experience enormous... if I get dropped off, it's not because I want to run away, but it's just because of the bad connections and the total darkness.
Oh, yes, you've just been nurtured. It's 8 o'clock now. Okay. All right. No,
Yeah. So if I, it's not because I'm running away.
Okay, no, fine. Thank you so much, Mr. Murray. We'll note that. All right, colleagues, let's move to the next item. I think it's the last item on your part, Mr. Adok. Oh, it's the minutes now. All right, we're dealing with the minutes. Colleagues, this is the meeting of the 23rd of November, 2023. The NCACC, it was before us on their quarterly report and feedback on the outstanding matters from the previous quarter. There was a presentation, update on the DACC, on progress made in addressing industry concerns based on the 3rd of September, on 3rd of November 2023. And then we looked at the report of the Denel Munition and Damen Shipyard Engagement, and we consider the minutes. Colleagues, this was the attendance. Just finished that, go through the attendance. All right, let's go to page 2. Page 2, colleagues, if there are any corrections, page 3. Page 4. And that's the last page. Colleagues, I table these minutes. Can I get over in the seconder?
I move, Honorable Chairperson.
Ms. Bartlett, Honorable Bartlett moves, seconded by?
Seconded.
Honorable Bartlett seconds. Yeah, thank you very much. We can move, take the next set. The minutes are duly adopted.
This was the only set, Chair.
Oh, this was the only set. All right. Besides this, is there any other outstanding matter? Was this the last item?
This was the last item, Chair.
All right. Colleagues, now the next item, who wants to fight with whom?
You got your gloves, Chair.
First, let me thank you for your time, and then wish you well as you take leave of the meeting. The meeting stands adjourned.
Chair, sorry, Chair.
Yes, Doc.
I just want to confirm for administrative purposes, we will submit the application, Nandipa will submit the application for the closed session. I just want to confirm is the date we're aiming at, if possible, in the application will be the 8th of March. Was that the agreement?
Can I consult first? I will then come back to you.
Okay, no, okay, 100%. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, the meeting stands. Do I say a hand? No. The meeting, colleagues, stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Good night.